Pivot by Jenny Blake. Jenny Blake is a career and business strategist, international speaker, and author who helps people organize their brain, move beyond burnout, and build sustainable, dynamic careers they love. She spent over 5 years at Google in training and career development, while also writing her first book, Life After College. Jenny left Google in 2011 to take her consulting business full-time. She's a San Francisco native now living in New York City. Chapter 1. When you search for a place to stay on Airbnb, you narrow down the choices with criteria such as price, location, size, and amenities. Your dream room might be someone else's nightmare. Think about your values as life filters, the search criteria that help clarify your priorities. They are rules of thumb for what makes you most fulfilled, the core operating principles by which you live your life. Even if you have not yet expressed your values in words, they are already a part of who you are and how you make decisions. In a pivot, your values create boundaries and benchmarks for big decisions. They distill the possibilities of what to pursue, help determine next steps, and reveal how to structure day-to-day activities for maximum happiness and productivity. Making choices that are in line with what is most important to you feels affirming and satisfying, even when those choices are difficult. Acting in ways that feel disingenuous or deflating lets you know a value is being suppressed or actively ignored. For example, telling the truth satisfies a value of integrity, even if it risks making another person upset. Telling a lie or staying quiet to keep the peace does not honor this value, and you end up feeling resentful for neglecting it. Chapter 2. Most people, including our closest family and friends, do not ask us the big questions on a regular basis, if ever. They don't typically start end-of-day briefs with, what is working best in your life right now? What are you most excited about? What does smashing success look like 1 year from now? Casual conversations more often hover around stories and daily drama. This is what happened to me this week. This is how I felt about it. This is what is bugging me. Although we sometimes share the most exhilarating moments, we lean toward discussing what troubles us because that's what is top of mind. If your values are your compass, your vision is your desired destination. Once you know where you are going, the pivot process can take you there. But first, you need to pinpoint where you want to end up. Your vision attaches a specific future-based form to your values. Both will help your course correct as you experiment throughout your pivot, while you steer toward a motivating future. Impactors are highly resourceful once they are clear on where they want to end up. They are quite creative about making their vision happen. Chapter 3. Fuel your engine. Monica McCarthy had been an actor in New York City for 15 years when she decided she was ready for a more stable role, one that offered more creative control over her work. She started her own business doing video production and direction for entrepreneurs, but 1 year in, she began to feel isolated. Monica realized she worked more effectively when partnering with others. As a result, she started looking for full-time jobs, her first time seeking office work since college. Prior to kicking off her job search, Monica started hosting a monthly dinner salon called Cheshire Parlor. These events connected interesting people with each other around big ideas like freedom, time, and fortune, not the usual Saturday night networking and bar banter. This side project was a natural extension of her core strengths as a people connector and facilitator of meaningful conversations. Though Monica loved these monthly dinners, her funds available for hosting began to dwindle. It was a classic pursue your passion conundrum. This was her passion, but it was not providing sustainable income. She needed another outlet for her vision of working with purpose-driven people and organizations. Chapter 4. Fund your runway. I spent my entire 20s telling myself I was going to do something, then not doing it. Andrew deftly said when I asked him what brought him to Manhattan for an acting audition. This time, I'm following through. I quit my job 2 months ago, and I'm giving myself 6 months to try to earn a living acting, which I've loved since I was a kid. Andrew had been working at NFL Films as a production manager for 8 years. He had a brand name gig, but hit a wall when he turned 30 and felt there was more out there for him. Deep down, he had always harbored a vision of being in front of the cameras as an actor, not hidden behind the scenes as an editor. Tired of succumbing to his fears, Andrew pivoted on his strengths and experience in video production and began taking extra acting classes and auditioning for roles, knowing that even if he failed, he would be happy he tried. Andrew didn't just have passion, energy, and excitement, he also had a financial plan. Chapter 5. Bolster your bench. Networking. Is there any term that gives more people hives when it comes to career change? One study revealed that the word itself actually makes people feel dirty. You've probably heard phrases like, connections are currency, and your network is your net worth. Cliches repeated so often that they are easy to cast aside. Yet, it remains true that authentically connecting with others is a far superior opportunity building strategy than spray and pray, outreach, or resume blasting across online marketplaces. Nearly everyone I interviewed for this book mentioned that, in addition to excelling in their current roles, career opportunities came from two key places: their existing network, friends of friends, and colleagues, reputation building activities such as writing or speaking on subjects that they have expertise in. Chapter 6. Bridge the gaps. Technological innovation is happening at such an exponential rate that none of us can predict exactly what skills will be needed to complement technology in the future versus those that may be rendered obsolete. Therefore, it is not sufficient to simply figure out what skills you need and master them. As the adage goes, give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. We must now adjust the second directive to teach a man to teach himself how to fish, feed him for a lifetime. The most agile pivoters improve upon the learning process itself so they can adjust quickly as new technologies are introduced. You can accelerate how quickly you spot skills that are needed and how rapidly you learn them. While the plant stage helped you identify strengths already under your belt, this chapter will teach you how to effectively scan for new marketable skills. You will learn to discern what areas are worth an investment of further learning and research. Chapter 7. Make yourself discoverable. Bluetooth is the magic technology that pairs two devices without any cables. Connecting two Bluetooth-enabled devices such as your phone to your car or wireless speakers requires making them both discoverable. When a Bluetooth-enabled device is discoverable, other devices can detect, pair, or connect to it. Pairing up in the career sense works the same way. You will have an easier time navigating between career moves or clients if you are discoverable, which means putting your ideas out into the world through your own platform or piggybacking on an existing one. Both require that you stand for something and commit to sharing your unique ideas and expertise. So far in the scan stage, we discussed whom to connect with and what types of skills would be most beneficial to develop. Now it is time to zoom in on specific opportunities and platform building activities to round out your pivot portfolio. This third scan step is about investing your searching time wisely and getting your story straight, making your desired direction known to others, and developing a strategy that enables opportunities to find you by increasing your visibility and reputation. Chapter 8. Get Scrappy. In the Lean Startup, Eric Ries popularized the concept of the MVP, or minimum viable product. By its definition, the MVP helps entrepreneurs start the process of learning as quickly as possible. It is not necessarily the smallest product imaginable, though. It is simply the fastest way to get through the build, measure, learn feedback loop with the minimum amount of effort. When it comes to product development, the message is not to delay a launch by months or years so you can craft every last immaculate detail behind the scenes. Instead, form an educated guess and test it sooner rather than later with your target audience. During my time at Google, we referred to this as being scrappy. We knew the conditions or output of our work would not be perfect, but it was important to release anyway, to launch and iterate, just get something out, then test it, get feedback, revise, and do it over again. Holding a mindset of launch and iterate encouraged us to get minimum viable products out to the company. Then have our peers test the programs, letting their feedback guide future versions. Chapter 9. Pause, review, repeat. Sleek and quirky vintage cars that would make any collection drool. coffee close-ups so intricately shot that you can practically smell the espresso grounds and taste foam on your lips. Comedians conversing casually in dinners, candidly discussing fame, humor, family, neurosis, and hard work. Jerry Seinfeld pivoted from stand-up and Seinfeld to producing a web series called Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, and the show is as addictive as his caffeine co-star. Sure, it is fun to see two celebrities in their natural habitat shooting the breeze for 20 minutes, but more contagious is how this show represents a total embodiment of a person's unique talents. Seinfeld found a way to follow his interests, his love of cars, comedy, coffee, and diners, while innovating within the TV industry and creating a viable business model around his experiment. The result is a joy to watch. Comedians in Cars is not a 180-degree turn from his sitcom, but rather more of a 90-degree shift. Seinfeld episodes often depicted friends meeting in restaurants discussing day-to-day pet peeves in what was described as a show about nothing. Comedians in Cars follow similar lines, and at Seinfeld's predilections combine to form what he describes as an anti-show about a non-event. Chapter 10. Build first, courage second. Whether moving teams within a company, changing companies, starting a business, or shifting or shuttering one, launches involve a healthy dose of faith, smart risks, and adrenaline. Ultimately, you will know it is time to launch when you're ready to risk failure, knowing that you had the courage to go for it, for the possibility of success, challenge, and personal growth. Or as Joseph Campbell put it, for the rapture of being alive. Do not expect courage to rain down from the sky before you make a move. It comes from taking action. Courage will not arrive in full before your launch. It will appear afterward, when the confidence from making a life-changing decision settles in. Because of how true this is in my life, one of my mottos is, build first, courage second. The more courageous action you take connected with your vision and values, the more confident you'll feel along the way. By following the pivot method, you have reduced your risk, planned intelligently for a number of potential outcomes, and narrowed options of what to do next. Chapter 11. Flip failure. It is impossible to talk about pivoting without addressing the fear of failure. I am an optimistic realist. As a business and career coach, I do not insult my clients by pretending their fears are not real, or that they can move past them with simple affirmations and positive thinking. I have experienced years of wading knee-deep in my own doubts, so when they tell me their fears, I reply with, yep, those things might happen. Then I follow up with, but will that stop you? What would you need to do to feel more confident moving forward in spite of these fears? These are not rhetorical questions. Ask yourself, will those worst-case scenarios stop you? If so, that's okay. It is a signal that you need to develop a game plan that allows you to sidestep paralysis. Although many of us know when it is time to leave our comfort zone, there is a blurrier line between weaving through the stretch zone without tipping into the panic zone. In many early conversations with clients, before their launch is a sure thing, the word failure comes up. I want to do X, Y, Z, but I am afraid to fail. Chapter 12. Are you listening? The career conversation I regret most is the one I never had. I've given 2 weeks notice twice in my career. The first time was at the political polling startup where I worked for 2 years while finishing my undergraduate degree. I remember walking into the founder's office with a cup of coffee clutched tightly in my hands as I sat down. I'd always been a bit intimidated by his brilliance and, at 21 years old, did not have much professional experience to draw upon for situations like these. My voice wobbled. I have loved working here, but I have accepted a job at Google. This is my 2 weeks notice. The conversation lasted 15 minutes and he asked me to have my things packed up and taken care of by Friday. I had been the first employee, and by the time I left, the company had grown to 30 people. I welcomed each new employee, developed vendor agreements, managed our office build-out, and helped recruit our online panel of survey respondents. Conclusion. Celebrate complexity. I remember squealing with delight when one of my coaching clients, Brian, told me what he thought was an extraneous fact about his past. Brian was a high-level engineering director who hit a plateau at a large technology company. After nearly a decade there, he was looking for a career reboot, something new and challenging. Brian had a robust compensation package at his present job and a wife and kids to support, so the choice about when to leave and what to do next was not an easy one. As we continued talking, Brian mentioned that he pursued a PhD in knot theory for a year and a half. A huge smile spread across my face. Brian's love for knots and knotty, complex challenges was the perfect background for navigating this transition. Rather than viewing his current career conundrum as a struggle, he started to see it as just the type of knot he loved to untangle, and one that he could solve with the same diligent problem-solving skills that he practiced in graduate school. Thank you for listening.